Before we begin, let's start by validating our environment. As you can see, I'm running on Ubuntu 16.0.4. In fact, if you look at all of the requirements for running Hyperledger Fabric, specifically a Hyperledger Fabric development environment in which we're going to use Hyperledger Composer, you're going to need Ubuntu 16.04 LTS. 18.04 LTS recently came out and is supported. You're going to need Docker 17.03 or higher, Docker Compose 1.8 or higher, Node, npm, Git, and Python, and I'll also show you how to install Visual Studio Code. However, in our environment we're going to use Ubuntu 16.04. Fortunately, there's a shortcut that the folks at the Hyperledger Foundation gave to us. There is a prerequisite script if you're using Ubuntu that's located here, and it will download the script. Once it's executed, after you set the proper permissions, it will launch all of the prerequisites so that you can quickly stand up a Hyperledger Fabric environment. This should not run under root. However, there are certain packages that require root, so the script requests your root password. Once the script finishes running, it's going to ask you to log out before continuing, and that is not a suggestion, really. You really should log out. Notice that it has installed all of the prerequisites at the proper version. You should be able to well, let me do exactly as it said. Let me log out first. Let me log back in. Okay, so now I'm logged back in. Let me test and make sure. Should be node -v, it's the right version, npm -v. Okay, those are all at the correct version. Okay, before we go any further, let's go ahead and install the IDE that we're going to use to develop. Okay, so in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in through VNC. I like, well, it doesn't matter which VNC client you use. You can select any VNC client, but let me get my IP address here. Let me pull up my VNC client. Okay, I happen to have VNC installed on this Ubuntu instance. Okay, so from here, what I want to do is go to Visual Studio Code so I can download it. Okay, and it should be at this location here. code.visualstudio.com/download. Eventually. In my instance, I'm running on Ubuntu 16.04. As I mentioned, we'll give it a second. Okay, once it is downloaded, let's go to where it downloaded so that we can do the installation. Okay, so it looks like it's right here. Let me go back to my command line. Let me go to downloads, and there it is. So now let me install it. It should take a few minutes, but once it's completed, you should have a running Visual Studio Code instance. Sometimes after I install Visual Studio Code, there's an error with some of the libraries, and so to fix that, I have this extreme hack here.